Welcome to Living in the Vita Local podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. My name is Fazz.
And I'm Rich.
Fazz guy and Rich guy. And Doom guys.
Right.
Doom guys.
Okay,
yeah.
I see what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, how is your... I think I've heard your impression of like a death metal before. That is in. I feel like do you want to?
You want
I want
some.
one basically for this podcast.
Rip and tear.
Yeah, that's what I really wanted for this podcast. Yeah, I did. I wanted that. I felt like it worked out. You know, that's what I wanted. I haven't got one. I can't. No, see what I mean? Yeah. How do you get? I can't. Yeah, mine's like.
I don't know. I'd love to say it was a gift, but I've never learned what I could do with it.
You can just do that on a podcast. Like, is it? You know,
can I have a cod and chips, please?
Down the chippy or something.
It's
a good litmus test.
I was going to say,
I love the fish and chips test.
They would knock £6 off. Fish and chips if you'd have said that to them.
It's the sort of thing like you listen to a movie trailer. It's like, are you honestly going to order a cod and chips with that voice, or an advert? Like you're just going to sound like a tit. What are you doing?
Speaking of sounding like tits, here we are, and we are looking at id software or ID software games.
Id, I think.
Id.
I want to say id.
I mean, yeah. Like, how have I got a two-letter word incorrect? I don't know. Anyway, let's call it id software.
Yep.
So we're going to be looking at Doom, the reboot from 2016, and also Quake, the original from 1996. And I went to the Royal Armouries at the weekend.
Well done.
To go and see an exhibition that you turned me on.
Wow.
Turned me on a bit onto.
I didn't realise that was the
I was
situation.
quite thrilled when you showed me. So, quite a few, I guess, video gaming news outlets. This was described as an immersive experience and exhibition for Doom the Dark Ages, which is out this week, the 15th. So, a couple of days' time. I'm very excited about it. The reason I played Doom, the 2016, was because I wanted to play Doom the Dark Ages.
Right.
Ideally, I wanted to get through playing Doom Eternal as well, but, podcasts and life, I can't just kind of, commit myself to full Doom, the ultimate Doom. But I feel like, you'll be able to tell me, being a Doom guy, hopefully, whether or not, like, as in I need to play Eternal or not. I kind of know the gist of the game, but then I also listened to the IGN podcast preview, and it sounds like I'll probably get away with just skipping straight to Doom the Dark Ages. So, and it just looks so fucking cool. Like, there's maces, there's a shield with a saw in it. That's what I want in all of my games at all times. So we skipped down there on kind of a semi-recommendation from the internet, and you said, "Oh, look, this is happening." I was like, "Oh, brilliant!" And you were in Dublin, so you couldn't make it, but that. I'm going to say that you won that coin toss.
Right.
Would be my review of the situation. So I made my way down and met up with at Scott Massey 83, who was on the podcast previously and is a big collaborator on Instagram with us. And he's taken some really good photos, and actually he's going to put a post out tonight with some of the photos on there, which is cool.
Nice.
Of some of the air quote exhibition.
Oh, okay, right.
So we approached as two adult gentlemen to one of the museum guards.
I'm here to learn about video games.
Pretty much. I was a bit like, so lovely baking warm Saturday afternoon. The idea was we'll go see Doom the Dark Ages exhibit for an hour, then we'll go to the pub for an hour afterwards. And we met up with Hakers, who's been on the podcast before. Afterwards, that was really nice to see him before we ran the Leeds Marathon. So we got there about 2:50 in the afternoon, and we were finished with the exhibition by 3:02. There was very little in the way of content in the Doom the Dark Ages immersive exhibition. I do believe there was a chap who's been in the Jack Reacher series, the most recent one. He was dressed as a Doomslayer the other day. I would have thought he'd maybe been there at the weekend, but maybe it was a bit hot, I don't know.
Maybe they couldn't afford him.
Yeah, I would say potentially that's probably the case. But then if I'm the Armouries, I'm paying for him on a Saturday, not a Thursday, unless maybe
Maybe it wasn't the Armouries paying for him.
yes, that's true. Bethesda, yeah, they were like, no, we can't afford him for more than one day. Like,
Unless they got to use him in other places or something.
yeah, probably, yeah, exactly.
Boss him around.
What the Doom the Dark Ages exhibition that they put on, especially at the Armouries. So I guess that if you haven't been to the Armouries before, there is almost like a structure at the end of the first hall that is like a lighthouse almost, if you will, I'd say, and then they have mirrors at the bottom of it usually, and you can look up and they have loads of arms on the walls, arms being guns, and
Describing it like it's a fucking spiral staircase. Come on, like it's a spiral staircase with a lot of windows.
yes, okay, fine, lighthouse, if you will, but at the bottom of that, there was the Doom the Dark Ages exhibition. There were two very, very cool things in the Doom the Dark Ages exhibition.
Right.
There was a saw shield.
Nice.
A working replica chainsaw shield, which I've literally about an hour before it came into the podcast watched them chop a pineapple in half with, which
Nifty.
yeah, exactly. And that was very cool. It was cool that the men at arms who work at the Armoury had actually built that.
Oh, cool.
Which
Yeah,
is
that I
awesome.
didn't know.
Yeah,
All right,
so
nice.
and that was in the cabinet, obviously, like as in but that definitely felt like it was one of those situations where somebody could just come along, smash it, and steal this like weapon of mass destruction and just be gone into the streets of Leeds. And then the second cool thing, which is the main draw of the exhibition, was a Slayo tapestry, like the Bayo tapestry.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it was an 11 foot. 11 meters. One of those measurements.
11 number.
Yeah. Or with a story of the Doomslayer through Doom the Dark Ages, so it kind of gives you
Spoilers.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit, that was a joke.
Yeah. No.
Oh no.
But only things that I think you already knew about what would happen in the game anyway. So
Okay, right.
because I think Doom the Dark Ages, it's still as we'll get into with the review of Doom itself, but there's the first person shooter element, but there's also you get to be in some old medieval giant kaiju sized mechs. That's something. So they show that on the tapestry, which is really cool. And
Basically just stuff from the trailers.
yeah, I would say pretty much. Yeah, probably not that spoilery, really. That is, you get away like. I mean, how spoilery is a tapestry in the first place? Like the Bayo tapestry, like how much of the Battle of Hastings does that give away? That
Quite a lot.
so I mean, people are always trying to interpret it. So you could just say the same thing for the Doom tapestry as well. But I want to know where it's going to go, because I assume it probably goes to like Bethesda's HQ or id Software or something. But
Yeah.
it's a pretty fucking cool thing. Like I was really impressed by it.
Yeah, that is cool.
So yeah, check it out on our Instagram later if you are listening and you're so inclined. But yeah, it was really cool. I think it's actually on to the 15th, maybe for another couple of days until the Dark Ages come out. So all in all, disappointing the amount of time that I spent there, and to make an active journey to go there to do that, but to actually see those couple of things, it was probably worth to see it for those.
Yeah.
But then I was quite happy to go to the pub for a couple of hours in the sunshine afterwards as well, so that was fine. So that wasn't so much of a
Worked out
problem.
all right then.
Yeah. I mean, the most cool thing that happened was that a man came up with a giant coin to do heads or tails outside a pub window for us, but they never really did it and left us wanting more. Like, as in, I thought that is.
So he teased you.
Yeah, he teased us.
With
like,
the potential for heads or
he
tails.
was quite pissed, and he said heads or tails about 6 times, and I was like, heads. Can we do the heads now? And he just didn't flip the coin and walked off, and I was like, that's.
Was he waiting for you to say tails?
Yeah, maybe, but that's a pretty cool thing of him to do. Like, as in, he's just go around like teasing people in town, like
You have an endearingly low bar for cool. That sounds fucking shit.
The Saturday afternoon was just like really not that great, and I'm like, that was awesome. The best afternoon I've ever had.
Sure.
It didn't rain.
Sounds like a right wind-up merchant.
Anyway, I think he was off his face. Anyway, so with all that said, I think I'm gonna like divert to you to kind of do an earlier id Software game in Quake, even though it is not prior to the initial Doom games. Mine's a Doom 2016, and you know, I think that I'm less not imbibed. That's a wrong word I'm looking for. It's involved in id Software, maybe, and I've only really started to play Doom recently, the originals and also the reboot. But how about yourself? What's your history with id Software? And
I've played. Have I played all the Dooms so far? I think I might have.
Yeah, that's cool.
If not all of them, pretty close to it. Like I would
that's
never.
Why you can do the voice. That's why you've got the.
Well,
you're a Doom
he
Slayer.
doesn't talk though, does he? So I can't do his voice. It's just sort of
no,
not
but
there.
you can do a voice of Doom.
Yeah. I have a copy of the Doom 2016 soundtrack because it's awesome. And fun fact, it is the music that I wrap my Christmas presents to. That's
every year.
That is not even a joke.
Since 2016.
Yep.
Okay.
Every year, I always wrap my Christmas presents to the Doom 2016 soundtrack.
Does it give you a sense of pace or anger that you're
both? Like
you're pouring vindictiveness into the present?
Yeah,
or
like
rage.
Christmas is really annoying. I would be all right without it, and I just I get by the time I'm getting around to wrapping presents, I'm just so done with it.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have something that is genuinely a palate cleanser, but also that soundtrack, that is music to get shit done to.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
It really is. Yeah, you're
so
right.
if you've got a job that you really can't be bothered to do, you know, stick that on. Bit of BFG Division, away you go.
It's very much music in general through id Software games seems to be that's a really good way of putting it. It is music you're going to get shit done with.
Yeah, it's great. And like it's one of the, particularly BFG Division, it's one of those tracks that like whenever it comes on whatever I'm listening to, because I have it saved, like I keep it in arm's reach. Like it always scratches an itch that I didn't know needed scratching until it's there, and then I'm like, yep, I'll be here for the next 8 minutes, 8.5 minutes now.
Have you got, is it CD, vinyl, tape? Cassette.
Vinyl.
Oh, vinyl, nice.
Just
so cool.
Stick that on and unnecessarily loudly, and off you pop.
I just want just before you start in the Quake, then just thinking about because I was asking about the tape. I know that you've kind of pointed me towards, I think, probably the Will It Run Doom Limited Run Games edition.
Oh, where you can play it on the box.
Yeah, so is it £666, 66 pence? And they're all sold out, so people have gone for it.
Yeah.
You get the...
What even is a Doom anymore?
So you can play it on the actual big box it comes in itself. You can play it on... is it a cacao demon? I can't remember what it's called now. One of the floating demon head ball things from the original game. You can play it on one of those. There's also one that floats magnetically above a magnetic base that you get as well. You get the whole soundtrack on 4 cassettes, I think it is, which it just... I can fully understand why somebody... Like, when that first came out, I saw that price, I was like, God, is anyone going to buy that? And immediately I was like, oh no, wait. If you just look at it for a little while, you kind of go, I wish I had that kind of money just to have that around. That is incredible. That is such a cool... And then, obviously, other things. The actual games themselves. But that's really cool. Quake me.
Well, I mean, I guess my point with all this is that historically, I have been more into Doom. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, and I say this for a reason, Unreal Tournament was my thing.
Yeah.
So, I never really dabbled with Quake, original Quake. First things first, I do need to mention this is Night Dive's remaster that I'm talking about here.
Cool.
The reason I mention that is because, at least on the PC version, I don't think you can do it on the Switch version, which I also looked at, because it turns out I own multiple copies of Quake now. It's usually on sale and quite often quite cheap. And if you haven't already bought it, then seriously, what is wrong with you? Yeah. Like, if you think you will enjoy it, go get it.
I have it around somewhere. I've got it on.
I think by this point, Quake 1 and 2, just get them.
Yeah.
Just get them. just go get them.
The order has been set.
Even if you have to wait a little bit for them to be on sale, just go get them. Same as the Doom games. Just go get them.
Yeah.
particularly Quake 1, like the kind of place it's got in history, I would argue is, at least for me, it's not quite as seminal as Doom might be. But that is purely my perspective on things. Because when I went in, I was like, well, it's basically just Doom with like 3D polygons, isn't it? Like, what's the big fuss? Then I played it, I was like, oh, I was wrong. Oh, I was so wrong.
Somebody did say the other night on one of our social media posts, was like, it's their favourite first-person shooter probably of all time.
I absolutely understand. Like, I get it. I do. I really do. And I think for me, and why you kind of touching on Doom, the Dark Ages is quite an interesting point, is because I think the big differentiator for me nowadays, going back in, is that the atmosphere. In Quake 1, the sort of original set of episodes is so flawless. Like, it's oppressive, it's dark. Trent Reznor's soundtrack, God, the whole thing just comes together so well. And it's got this kind of eldritch, like, Cthulhu kind of vibe backing it up. Like, and so you kind of get the sense that you're only ever glimpsing, like, the true horror that is out there somewhere. And, you know, more often than not, it was playing for me more like a horror game than a first-person shooter. I just happened to be waving a gun around. Whereas Doom was a lot more like smash the doors in and tear the place up. Quake, I was just by my own, like, not thought process, like just the way I kind of wanted to approach it was more cautious. And, like, of course you don't need to play it like that. It's just that I felt somehow like the atmosphere warranted it.
Yeah, that's nice.
And I was finding myself, like, much more prone to, like, jump scares and, like, you know, that classic bit in Doom where you flick a switch and then a door in a wall opens behind you and suddenly something jumps out. Somehow I found that exact same trick much more effective in Quake than it ever was in Doom.
Is that because of how, obviously, like you said, the atmosphere as well? Is it also because it looks a little bit more realistic at that point, a couple of years down the line from Doom, or is that nothing to do with it? I think Quake's look would have been trickier to pull off with sprites. Not impossible. I think, like Doom as well, you know, that old thing of, like, walking around an enemy or a corpse, and, you know, certain versions of it'll just sort of follow you around and all that kind of stuff. Whereas Quake, it doesn't. It's got all these little technological touches that bring you in, and, like, the lighting or you know, the sound effects, the way it all hangs together is very, very good at drawing you into that world. And then you add in, like, the kind of the weaponry that you've got there. Like, there's nothing that's in 2025 revolutionary, but at the time, you know, you've got nail guns and you've got, like, lightning launchers and all this kind of stuff, as well as your different shotguns. You know, they're two different implements, aren't they?
Well, but
I would love a lightning launcher. More likely to be able to get a nail gun.
But the whole thing, it's just like it all hangs together so well, because it all pairs well with that kind of medieval atmosphere that it has. So, like, whenever you go into a sort of stage, you start off in, like, a reasonably relatable sci-fi setting, and then you start going through portals, and you go into, you know, like, these medieval castles, these dungeons, these hellish landscapes, and all that kind of stuff. And it constantly feels like, through the course of each of these episodes, I think there's 4 or 5 in the original game. Over the course of each of them, you feel like you are on this journey, and you start somewhere that's familiar, and it gets increasingly unfamiliar and off-kilter. And again, like, it's just so, as a whole, it's so cohesive.
I was going to ask, is there a bit more... I always put things so basic compared to how you're describing them nicely, but is there more sense of a plot than there would be, say, the original Dooms and things? Or is it not? Is it just, again, is it an ambience and a feel? because of the way they've set up the stages.
The plot is kind of told through text on screen, like the original Doom. But I think, for me, the kind of in-world storytelling of Quake is more sophisticated, and I think that's the difference. I think Doom, you go into a place, you shoot the place up, you move on to the next place, and in that respect, it is a journey. Yeah. It's just that the visual development, I think, in Quake is a smoother pace.
Okay.
Because it's not to say that in the original Doom it doesn't change up, because of course it does. But I just think by the time you get to Quake, they've worked out how they want to approach it, and it just feels that much more considered and sophisticated, and I think it's better for it, that ambience. I mean, especially because it's a night dive thing, you can go in, you can play all of these different like expansions that came out, other episodes that people have made, mods, all that good stuff. So if you want to make it look completely different again, you can. There's a lot of content you can go through. So if you just like how it feels to play it, but you want something that's more like Doom, you can go play a version of Doom that was ported into Quake, and stuff like that. So it's malleable, like Doom was. And then obviously Night Dive have put in their own tweaks to the controls and the lighting and stuff like that. At least on the PC version, you do have the option of playing the original one. And I found that very, very difficult to get my hands around and get into. I didn't play it for particularly long. It was more of a curiosity thing. But I think that just puts it a little bit above the other versions for me, just for completeness' sake. It gives you the option to do it. But it is quite noticeable, the difference that Night Dive's polishing made.
So, obviously, I'm fairly certain you'll have explained them and what they do on the pod before. Do they just deal solely in abandonware then, or do they?
No, I wouldn't have said so.
Yeah.
But they are very, very good at remasters, they will take stuff that potentially would have disappeared without a trace and work on it. But also, I mean, Quake wouldn't have got it.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I was a bit like.
But they are very, very good at what they do.
Yeah.
They've done really, really well, and you still get that kind of that sense of variety, but somehow it all hangs together, and. That's even before you get into the multiplayer.
Yeah.
And you got your bots and your match options and all that good stuff. And I mean, the reason why I mentioned Unreal Tournament earlier on is that obviously you give it a couple of iterations and you're getting to Quake 3 and it's basically doing Unreal Tournament's job, and all that kind of stuff. So you bring all of that together, and then you add in the whole the technological mantle it has for bringing about this kind of revolution in sort of 3D accelerated graphics and all that kind of stuff, and making people want to have a computer that can run it. It's easily as seminal as Doom, I think, in its own way, and I think I was stupid to ever think otherwise.
I was really hoping that you'd be able to convey that, because that was a question I wanted to ask almost, was that did it feel like actually, because I think that when people speak about id Software, and the very first thing everyone always says is it will be Doom, which is completely fair enough. But they've done Wolfenstein, they've done other things, and then Quake's always said almost like a heartbeat or breath afterwards. And how close is it to being that seminal game as well? And it sounds like it is. So.
Yeah, and I think for me, going back and playing the first one, I get it now. I do, and I think it's kind of interesting to see how things like Wolfenstein and Doom have kind of gone on since, whereas Quake seems to have almost petered out a little bit.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Because you've got your multiplayer only, I think it's like a free play type thing out there in the wild. But I think as a sort of tight single player experience that's going to take you on a journey, I think it's kind of a shame that we seem to have lost that. And I'm sure the internet will correct me if that's wrong. But you know, and this is why timing this with Doom the Dark Ages coming out is kind of interesting, because the trailers started dropping for that.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it's all kind of medieval vibes and, you know, eldritch.
Doom's on Quake's patch.
And, yeah, and like there were...
Would it shock you if all of a sudden the plot it turned into, you know...
Apparently quite a few people were openly wondering whether or not it was suddenly about to, you know, smash into the same thing, and it turns out they were all part of the same story all along, and we're just now bringing it all together. As far as I'm aware, that's not the case. But like, it's kind of interesting that, like, I think muscling in on Quake's patch is a pretty good way of putting it. Yeah. Which, having gone back and played this first one, I think is kind of a shame. It feels like we've lost a little bit of bit of something. Like, it would be nice if we could find a way for Quake to kind of come back and find its niche. And I mean, you never know. Like, given the iterations they put Doom through over the years, maybe there is something to be said for something that plays a little more deliberately old school, and that's how you get your Quake back. But then I guess they were kind of doing something sort of like that with Wolfenstein, so you kind of muscling in on turf there. But like to be continued, I guess. But like 10 out of 10 for me.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Like
Like, having gone in and with my expectations, like, okay, well, it'll probably be good, and then realised that it's really good and I can play all these extra things. I think one of the extra episodes was from the from Machine Games who do the Wolfenstein stuff. You know, Quake 64, like the N64 port, you could just play that in this, and all that. And incidentally, I have since picked up the cartridges for Quake and Quake 2 on the N64.
Nice. Okay.
And the controls for Quake 1 are pretty nice. I got on with them really quickly.
I can imagine that with the N64 sort of like analog stick and things. It's like,
because it was that little bit simpler to, like, for the weapon controls, and the, you know, it didn't have, as far as I'm aware, didn't have alternate fire modes like Perfect Dark did and stuff like that. It could like, you had enough buttons. They started to try and get a bit clever with it on Quake 2.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but when we did the demo disc episode, I tried to play Quake 2 on a demo disc, and I could not play, like, even 30 seconds of it. I was like, what?
I don't know what was going on with the controls.
It was like PlayStation 1 controls, and I was like, I just didn't... I was like, even if I just sat there and thought about it for a long while, I don't think it would have felt natural to do the movement with them.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like strafing across the screen towards death.
It was the kind of thing where, like, look and strafe aren't exactly where you think they should be, whereas, at least on the N64, Quake 1 felt a lot more natural. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about now. No. It's just complete aside. But yeah, Quake on the PC, 10 out of 10.
Wow, awesome. You probably hear some children screaming in the background. We've got the window open. It's really hot in the UK, so I don't think the Doomslayer or anybody who's out there, you know, assassinating children. I hope not.
Wow.
That
was dark.
It's fine. It suits. Do your voice, and they'll be okay. Well, no, surely the Doomslayer would. You know, so I've got one thing, which is so. And you'll be able to help me with this, is the conversion of Doom Marine, kind of Doom Guy, if you will, into Doom Slayer. Now, I know that kind of gets solved a little bit in Doom Eternal, which I've not played, but kind of like what his backstory is and stuff. And I kind of read up a little bit about this, about the podcast, but I couldn't help but notice, and there's people that have talked about it actually, so it is a thing, how sexy his belly is as the original Doom Marine man. Like, as in... He's clearly had his, like, you know, his marine kit swiped open at the front of and he's got, like, the best abs ever. And I was just like, you know, but then also Doom 2, like, it has a demon on the front of it, and even then, like, his stomach muscles are missing, and you just see his guts. And I feel like someone's had a real obsession with, like, just showing belly off. Like, as in, I don't really know what it is. But I'm glad to report, and, you know, back from Doom 2016, that isn't the case, certainly on, you know, the visuals of the Doomslayer at that point. He seems to have his stomach covered over.
That's good.
Yeah, so... I didn't know if there was a conversion thing where it was like, oh no, like we need to take it from a human being into this sort of like, other ethereal sort of thing, and he doesn't have his abs out anymore. I don't know, but
is that the trick? That's the visual cue.
Yeah, that's what.
As soon as he puts his abs away.
Was there anything in Quake? Any abs in Quake?
No.
I don't know. There is there? No, it's fine. It's okay. But just,
I'm sure you can mod it in if you were desperate.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering as well. Like, if Night Dive put like sexy belly mode in. Like,
funnily enough, I didn't go looking for it.
So, past that hump that I was really worried about, I've got it underlined. Is the exposed sexy belly what makes the difference? Underlined it is in my notes. All right,
it really is.
Anyway, so Doom 2016 then. So it's kind of the reboot, if you will, of the Doom franchise. And it was originally going to be like Doom 4 all the way back in 2008. And then you kick forward 8 years. It's been reworked and redone. Quite far away from the movie. I've never seen Doom the movie. Have you seen Doom the movie?
I have seen Doom the movie. My wife got it for me one Christmas, funnily enough.
When you're just there with the vinyl on, just like,
The movie is awful.
I have heard not good things about the movie.
It's not great.
But yeah, so I imagine some space from the movie it might have been good for it anyway, really. So it felt like it was probably, looking at time-wise, probably a good time to bring it back. And the fact that you've kind of got this almost a bit of a trilogy in a way now of the 2016 version, then Doom Eternal, and now the Dark Ages over a 10-year period, feels like they've kind of spaced them out nicely, will have thought them through. Each one seems to be its own individual thing, from what I understand, without obviously playing Doom the Dark Ages, but from what I've seen and heard of Eternal. I heard that Eternal's got a bit more to its skill level wise, is what I've heard. I'm looking at you for help.
I was going to say, are you asking me?
I am asking you, yes.
Doom
itself, the 2016 version.
I would think that, yes, it would. And, I mean, for my part, like, I loved 2016 Doom, played Eternal, and kind of initially hated it. Mm-hmm. Because it was that extra little bit, and you have a lot of moving parts that I'm sure you'll get into, and it kind of felt like bloat for bloat's sake. Yeah. And then I went back to Doom 2016 and was like, ooh, yes. This feels kind of limited.
Okay,
now.
Good.
They definitely feel like their own beast.
Cool. Thank you for that, because that's what, without me playing Eternal, because I wanted to, and I will on the back of playing through Doom, but I think I'll probably hit Dark Ages first, just because I'm super excited about it. But I wanted to understand, is that the case? And what I heard or read is that actually, I think that once you get onto Eternal, if you start loving Eternal, then you get back to this one, and it doesn't necessarily scratch the same itch because it has different things going on. Yeah. So, what are the itches in Doom in general? If you've never played Doom before, Jesus, basically,
welcome to the conversation.
Yeah, you're just a dude going out and kicking ass, like as in a first-person shooter, and effectively, all you're going to do is try and just to stop the forces of hell from doing what the forces of hell are doing. There's not much plot to the first Doom. It's, as you referred to before, you are told it's sort of in text format, but the important part is doing the thing, doing the Doom.
Doing the Doom. Whereas
in 2016, you can imagine, and this was an interesting sort of thought for me, was that now that Doom was the first real, apart from, say, Wolfenstein, so the one that just caught the zeitgeist, the first person shooter, the thing, and it's now not. There are other iterations of other games.
Doom clones anymore.
I don't know what to sort of call them, but effectively Doom clones out there that have, and therefore, where does Doom sit in that world, and how well does it perform, and how well does this 9-year-old game now perform? For me, coming to it for the first time as well through Xbox Game Pass, and in that world, and how do I feel about it? Because I was a bit like, is this my jam? Is it the kind of game that I'm into when it comes to a first-person shooter? It definitely is. Is it perfect? I would say not. I was a little underwhelmed by it. Not to say that it isn't a really quite a good game, and it actually is my style of wanting to play first-person shooter, which is just beating the living shit out of things at like close range and having the biggest guns in people's faces. And that was always my favourite part of, let's say, for example, Halo. Like, as in, I constantly want to try and beat the shit out of things in Halo. Like, I'm not really there to do the sniping. I'm there, or the rifles. And it's actually in any sort of first-person shooter games. That doesn't really necessarily... I'm not fussed about that too much. You know, someone said to me, "Oh, do you want to, play Sniper Elite or this?" I would want to play this more, I think, just because I like just the fast-paced nature of getting up and personal and close with things, and just, I imagine that if I ever got into a situation where I had a gun in my hands and I had to fight against the forces of hell, I would want to beat them to a pulp with my own fists and the back end of a gun and a shotgun. That's how I want things to go down, really. So just
Fair enough.
want you to know that out loud. That's how I want things to happen.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting here thinking of Doom 64 and going like, oh no, that was the moment where it started being more like Quake, because it's all sort of like quiet and dark and considered. And then here you are, like, rampaging through, like, oh, I want to beat it with my fist. Like, yeah, those quiet moments on Doom 64, like, it all makes sense now.
That's a good point, though, isn't it? Because then I guess that I've not played Doom 64, so therefore it is interesting to know that the series has
dabbled with quieter moments of horror. Yeah.
Because this doesn't.
Well, I guess that's the point.
It doesn't feel like it ever does.
Yeah, because it from memory, I haven't picked it up recently, but like there's downtime, not necessarily quiet time.
Yes, and the downtime is almost a bit of a exploratory fashion where there are secrets you can pick up. But you can also just completely ignore all that if you want to as well.
But it's more like punctuating the fights rather than creating an ambience.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, in this game, so you are a Doomslayer, you are awakened from a sarcophagus, and you are brought straight into the fight. Immediately, there's just demons in the room where you're woken up, and you just know that you have to beat the shit out of them because you're playing a Doom game, but also, it felt like the right thing to do.
You have one job.
It just felt like I knew what to do in that moment. I had my belly out, and it was just... And then... The plot, there isn't much of it really. Like, you are on this sort of semi-abandoned, fully abandoned really, destroyed sort of outpost on Mars. The UAC, is it Union Aerospace Corporation, who run throughout all the games basically, and all the people who are on Mars, they have been doing things they should. They've been dabbling. They've been mining too deep. Like, as in like people do.
Silly sausages.
They delved too deep and brought out the hell energy that is there and all the demons. And then there's some psychotic scientists who are obviously out for their own gain. There's a really shady head of a corporation who's kind of like, who clearly you don't trust, even though you never really speak on it. Like, as the Doomslayer, it's kind of like, oh, like, as in, he's clearly like trying to get you to do stuff for him, and you're just doing it because you have nothing else that you can do except for kick ass. Like, as in, so it's almost like, well, I may as well kill everything because that's what my job is. I think from waking from this sarcophagus, but. There's never a shady head of any corporation during any game of the last 40 years that I know of that you can go, well, actually, he's going to look out for me in the end. Like,
have my interests at heart.
Yeah, I worry about the Doomslayer's health insurance. Like, as in,
he doesn't.
No, he doesn't need to. I worry about those kind of things because I'm a millennial, whereas he doesn't have to worry about it. But yeah, it is one of those things where I guess what I'm trying to get to. The plot feels kind of superfluous because I'm a bit like, well, I know this guy's shady, and I know I'm going to get turned on at some point and things, and everything isn't as it seems, but that doesn't seem to necessarily matter. Like, I'm driven forward by the desire to absolutely destroy everything in front of me, which I kind of, channeling my inner Doomslayer almost, if you will. Like, so I didn't really have to worry about it, and it was almost like I felt the story, much like you were saying with Quake, really is set by the atmosphere and the ambience and the soundtrack, and it's almost, that's what you just know what you have to do because of the way that the sound effects are driven. When you hear the demon hordes, kind of like in those moments of sort of quiet, and then all of a sudden you're in, I guess what I would class as a Doom battle arena where you're locked in, and all of a sudden 30 fucking demons come from nowhere, and different variety of enemies that are in this game is excellent. As in, like, I'd say for the most part, there feels like a lot of different types of enemies that you have to deal with, and they send many at you. When that noise starts coming, you and then the soundtrack kicks in. You know what you have to do. That is in, so you don't need to worry about what some fucking computer AI that called Vega that's helping sort of say go this way, go that way, or whatever. You don't need that really. What you need is just to go, right, okay, I know I need to get to the next one of these arenas to kill all the other things. So I think there's just a really great rhythm to this game, and it constantly, you're moving forward onto the next thing. My only issue is that the next thing is it's always just kicking ass, which I know that sounds like a bit counterintuitive to what I've just said, because it's really fun.
Just long for a puzzle.
There's just a lot of it. Like, isn't it? There's a lot of just slaying. Like, it's just, that's kind of fine, because that's the function of you as a character and as a person, but I feel like they could have done something a bit more to try and sort of alleviate that. Here's the next little battle arena, you're locked in, you've got to kill everybody in the motherfucking room, right, next.
I think that was where they started to go with Eternal,
okay,
and the kind of the mechanics and the systems that it's got, just to try and mix that up a little bit while still basically doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But just give you a little bit more variety with it.
Yeah.
I guess whether or not it worked is, down to personal preference. But yeah, I could see why they might use what you're talking about as the starting point.
Yeah.
And then you get to where we are now.
It definitely feels like they have done the thing where they've gone, this is how we connect the Doomiverse, if you will.
Yeah.
This is what people know Doom is all about, so we'll give them all of that in the first game, and then hopefully, like you said, they had the vision there where they're like, we will step into something iterating. Else. I mean, there are, I guess, evolution of what you'd expect from a game from 2016 in terms of you have objectives, you've got the objective map, you've got sort of like a really neat codex and information system. You've got a Praetor suit where you can you get upgrades, so basically you get upgrades for your weapons, upgrades for your suit. There are things that drive you forward to find the next thing in the room, if you will. And they all work really well. They get out of the way as well. Like, it's never a hassle to find the next upgrade. You might have to go and explore a little bit deeper to find that thing, but that's a good thing. And I kind of wish there was a little bit more of that, really. That's probably what I'm thinking. I'm not a massive... I don't want fucking huge long side quest or anything, but I just probably wanted a bit more variety in what you were trying to find, basically, apart from the next demon's butt to kick. There was way more platforming than I expected. There was just an extreme amount. I remember at one point when you're climbing the Argent Tower, which is where one of the main enemies of the game is supposedly at that point in the game, and I'd say I was probably platforming for between 15 and 20 minutes. And again, that felt like it was almost like it was the battle arenas and platforming. And I was like, and it didn't necessarily feel like it was particularly well made as a platformer. I guess that as the Doomslayer, you're big, you're hulking, you probably will struggle to get up platforms and things, but it felt like after the sort of 7th or 8th, 9th minute of doing it, I was like, when are we cutting to the next thing? Do you know what I mean? Which will be killing something. Yeah. So I was quite glad to have something to kill when I was like... and because that platform wasn't necessarily brilliant, it was quite easy to fall off things. And it feels like, and I don't know if it's got better in Eternal or not, or it is in the Dark Ages, it felt like the checkpoints were a bit uneven, and you could have done a lot of platforming, and done some easy platforming, and then fallen and been a bit like, all right, my checkpoint's, like back here, or I've got to go, I've fallen so far, I've got to start at the bottom again, and things like that. And there were a bit frustrating times where I was like, it felt like it was meant to be a bit of a challenge, but it didn't feel like that was the game I was meant to be playing.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I get that.
It didn't feel like I was meant to be playing Super Mario or Rayman or something like that. And then I was like, oh, I'm expected to just be getting perfect double jumps over, this gap here and stuff. So yeah, there was a few things there where I was a bit like, ugh, a bit uneven when it came to platforming and stuff. The main part of the game, as we all know, is the combat system. If you've not played this Doom, there is a system called the Glory Kills, and most people listening to this will know this anyway. And they, again, are really, really fun. You basically almost kind of chain kill between enemies in a way that is in, you get up close and personal, you get a glory kill, and it's worth doing because you get health back and you get ammo back by Emma. You get ammo back. Emma Emmerich. You get ammo back from doing it, and basically that's the main way of being able to regain health during these battles, and also to regain the ammo as well. So you're clearly pushed in the direction to do that, which is fine by me because, as stated previously, I love beating the shit out of things with a shotgun in my hand. You know, when you start to evolve the shotgun, I don't think I've played a game this fun with a shotgun before. That is in, so apart from obviously the sort of original Dooms and things, but this really does go to the nth degree where you can use it as a main weapon. A lot of times, like, say for example Halo, like, is in where you get a shotgun, you get like 10 shells, and it's like, and you get to kill like one elite, and you're like, alright, great, well, that gun I really enjoyed, but I can't use it because I don't have enough ammo for it. Whereas in Doom, it's constantly refilling that ammo for your shotgun and adding to it when you get the upgrades and things, and I'm like, great, this is my main weapon, this is my boomstick, as well it should be, and that's how. And there aren't enough games like that out there for me to be able to feel that, and to have the glory kill mechanism as well. I want that in more games. I wonder if Doom's probably cornered that a bit, and actually I don't know of many other games that have kind of went after that and thought I could use this mechanism in a different way. The one thing I would say about it is I probably want a bit more personalisation on them. I feel like that you could have, because it was almost, I think it's R3 where you do it, and obviously you do the melee and get the glory kill, but it's a repetition of the same animation over and over again, kind of like, as in there are several different ways of doing glory kills. You can do death from above, so you can jump off and things, but after a while you've probably seen the same sort of 7 or 8 animations, especially considering how many kills that you do. It would have been good if you could have personalised them, say if you held R3 and then R2 for example, and you, I don't know, did something extravagant as part of, you know, a kick flick twist glory kill. So I just think that could have been gained more. Again, is that different in Eternal? Is there a different?
Not so much, not to that degree. I think there's, if I remember rightly, and it's a big if, I think there are certainly, or at least as far as I can remember, I think there are some animations that carry over to Eternal. There might be a couple more. But the enemy variety is a little greater.
Okay.
And you are kind of given a couple of other tools to use besides just glory kills, but for different things. So yeah, they do manage to mix it up a little bit, but I'd still argue that it, like you say, considering the number of things you are going through, it can get a little repetitive.
And I think I was quite shocked to see the length of the games as well, because they're just to go for a standard first-person shooter, if you will. I would say, you know, look at the Call of Duties, for example, of the world and things like that. You know, they stretch out to a mighty 10 hours a lot of the time and things, and you know, whereas this, you know, I was sort of, I guess, 20 hours in by the time I'd completed it, which is great. It just brought into that repetition of where's the next thing. I love that there was like almost extra challenges though, like the rune challenges that you had, the experience that, you know, I sought those out because that's when I was like, am I any good at Doom? Like, as in to do the ones like where you're like, right, you've got to kill this many enemies in 30 seconds with a shotgun, and you've got to. So basically, it was like the nailing of the double jump. And I got that feeling, and I've just referred to it, Tony Hawk's, like, as in, kind of get that feeling of, I need to nail this manual into a rail, you know, like side kind of thing, where it was like, you know, I need to nail this double jump, and then as soon as I hit the floor, I'm shotgunning this guy, I'm turning, I'm shotgunning this guy. You kind of got that, you know, that epic flow meter, where it was like, I need to be at my perfect best here to complete this rune. I'm not sure if the the things that you gain from doing that in the rooms, that isn't actually worth, the actual amount of work that went into it. But I quite enjoyed the aside of, that was where I kind of got the variety, the spice, the sort of variety into the game a little bit more. Where I was like, I'm going to spend a little bit more time doing these because I find these really interesting and difficult to do. So yeah, it was nice that they were there, really.
Do I remember that there was like an arcade mode or something like that floating around?
Yes, yeah. So I didn't access it that much, but there is one, yeah.
But yeah, just thinking of you saying about like almost like planning a route and playing it like a shmup or something like that, I guess, and getting your method down. I think because I don't remember it including much of the platformy type bits in the arcade mode. Mm-hmm. You throw it in that light, and it's like, oh well, it is basically an arcade game.
Yes, yeah. And so I didn't play any in the multiplayer either, but I'd heard that was lambasted at the time, so I heard it wasn't great.
I think it got a little bit better as it went on,
which I'd expect. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what that's kind of like now, with the Dark Ages, and see if they actually have. Because I'm going to be honest, all the previewing that I've read around it and listened to, I've not heard much about that, and I don't know whether or not that means it's not actually there, or whether or not they just haven't put a lot into it. Is there one for Eternal?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, actually.
No. I'm going to be honest, that isn't. I don't know if I need one necessarily. Like, as in, no.
I mean, I tend to play bot matches anyway because I'm a miserable bastard.
Yeah, you are. Yeah,
and so I was. I think Doom 2016 you could do it, but you still needed like an online subscription to get to the multiplayer bit anyway.
Yeah.
Or there was some weird gotcha.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'd be any great loss for me.
No. So what would you, if from memory, think feeling wise, what would you give Doom 2016? Like, considering you've played all the rest of them and what you were speaking about with Quake and things. This doesn't matter. It's just a general reference point.
I think
it won't affect mine.
I think I think I personally would probably still give it a 9. I think if I was doing it objectively, I would probably give it an 8 and Doom Eternal a 9.
Okay.
But without me playing Doom 2016, I'm not playing Doom Eternal. And so I think for me they're both 9 out of 10s, but for different reasons.
Okay.
Doom Eternal, for me, dragged a little bit more.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like
it's a little bit longer as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it showed. But the mechanics on it, I think once you've played them and you've kind of got to grips with them, I do think it does make 2016 a bit trickier to go back to. But yeah, it's been a while since I've played either of them, to be honest with you. But I think that's my kind of gut feeling.
Yeah, I'm sat at a 7, and like I say, for whatever reason, and it was a gut feeling. I was having fun a lot of the time, but I did start to feel that sag, that repetitiveness. All the great things about it, the speed of gameplay and the gunplay and the rune challenges and things. They're all incredible, and it's exactly what I want from a first-person shooter. But after a while, I was like, I don't need this all the time. So yeah, like I said, that gut feeling of I just didn't feel the impact as much as I thought I was going to when I picked it up. I thought I was going to play one of the best games I've ever played, and it's a really, really good game. It just wasn't as impactful as it sounds like it was possibly for you.
Yeah, and I think that's probably also not helped by the fact that we're sat here on the cusp of what the second game since or whatever, whereas I was sitting there playing it in like 2017 2018.
Well, that's it, yeah.
Before Eternal surfaced.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You hadn't played a new Doom in theory since 2004, for example, like all the HD remaster of 3. It had been a long time,
Yeah, and I think like you said earlier on, the timing counted for something with it.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not a 4 and it's not a 5 or anything. It's still a very, very good game, and I would still tell people, recommend them to go and play. If you've not played Doom 2016, I really, really would go, especially if you are that type of first-person shooter that just wants to run and gun. Yeah, loads of fun. and it kind of, like I said, the plot and everything and all the upgrades and stuff kind of get out of the way and do what they should do. I just would have liked to say that, maybe a few different types of glory kills and, less of the sort of platforming in some areas and things. But yeah, it still hella fun, funnily enough.
It's almost like you're kind of describing the kinds of things you could almost get if you had Night Dive's version of it in 10 years' time or something like that. Maybe. Maybe that's the trick.
But this thing, I'm trying to think. Oh, something came to mind there. It's completely left really quickly. But yeah, when somebody takes a version of a game from, say, 20, 30 years ago, and they just know what to do to make the main core mechanics sing even louder. There is a version of this game, like you said.
Yeah, a slightly rebalanced, slightly retooled.
Yeah, that is in there where you kind of go, yeah, okay, that's the one. Do you know what I mean?
Super Street Doom 2016 Champion Edition.
Super Turbo Uber Doom. Cool. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that, though, because it felt like a real history lesson for me to be able to sort of... Because I've only played the first couple of Dooms for a little while, and then this one. And I want to be really involved with... id Software games, and it sounds like I need to go back and check Quake out as well, especially Night Dive's version. So I'm really excited to do that, because they definitely feel like a lot of the video game world that not that I haven't missed out on purpose or anything like that, but certainly I've got something to go back to now that's really exciting to me. That,
definitely.
That there's a huge well there for me to be able to get into, as long as it's not full of hell energy or anything like that.
Fire.
Or sexy bellies. Yeah. Cool. But definitely, if you get a chance to ever see the Saw Shield, the real Saw Shield out and about, as long as... Oh, man, imagine if that cut through the tapestry by mistake.
That's probably why they keep it in a box.
That'd be awful. But if you ever get a chance to see anything like that, it's a really cool, kick-ass thing. So, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll speak to you soon.
Cheers.